Hi folks, welcome to the shop. I just want to talk a little bit today about EDC tools or everyday carry items that you would have on your person. I've got a few examples here of things that I've used over the years and tried over the years. You can see I have three Leatherman tools here, but I just briefly wanted to talk about one of the I think what's the original Leatherman. It all kind of started with this for me. I got in this tool years ago and thought, hey, I'm going to try it out. You can see they're made in Portland, Oregon, a great American-made tool. And so years ago I got this, hey, I'll try it out. Well, this might be great to carry every day. Well, I quickly found that, if you wanted to get the knife blade out of it, you had to open the tool up and you had to get to your knife blade. First you got to find it, right? Get your knife blade out of here. There's it. There it is. And you have access to the knife, okay? Then you got to shut the tool, right? Now you're using your knife. Well, to me that was too fiddly, too many steps. The knife blade is not locked, as you can see. The knife blade doesn't face the outside of the tool. It's facing towards the inside and this inner piece, right? The tool does not have a pocket clip, for example, so you would have to use the pouch. When you look at the tool from this perspective and you're putting a lot of torque on it, you can feel in your hand that these metal edges cut into your hand quite a bit. As I said earlier, if you're really going to carry it on your person, you had to, they were expecting you, rather than use a pocket clip, you would use this pouch that all of these Leatherman came with. And of course, then you got to turn it in here and get it in just right to get it to fit. So this ended up going in my glove compartment. I never really carried it beyond the first few days. But since then, Leatherman has made vast improvements, right? Here I have the Leatherman Wave. And so years later, I decided to try a new Leatherman, and I got this Leatherman Wave. And they've fixed all the inherent issues. You can see it's got the pocket clip on it. The edges are pretty much round. You can get to the knife blade from the exterior part of the knife. This is a serrated knife on this particular Wave model. They have a regular knife here, but one-handed you can get the blade out. It has a liner lock in it. You can push down and get the blade back into place. When you open it up to use the pliers, nice rounded edges on the tool, so it's very very smooth, very good in the hand. It's a great tool, but when you put it in your pocket, it's just a heavy tool to be carrying all day. You definitely know you have it on you, and I tried carrying it for a while, and I just didn't like the weight. And another thing with these pocket clips, if you're going to make use of the pocket clip, which is great, I just found that inevitably when I have a pocket clip on a tool, that I end up scratching this into, let's say, a door on the truck, or a door jamb in the house, or something heavy I'm picking up inevitably ends up having this thing gouged into it. So with that, it being the weight and the fact it's got this clip, I was like, I really want something that just rides in my pocket, so I don't have any risk of this clip getting hooked or caught on anything throughout the day. If you put this on the side of your pocket where you carry your car keys, every time you're putting your hand in your pocket, you're scraping across this clip, dodging this knife, trying to get to your keys. So just things like that, I decided that I wasn't crazy about having something this heavy and using a pocket clip. But I did try, before I got to that conclusion, I did try a lighter tool, thinking, well, a lighter tool might work out for me. This is the Leatherman Wingman. Both these tools, if I haven't said already, this guy probably sells, I know it sells for over $100 now. I bought it for half that. Same here. This doesn't sell for over 100, but it sells for at least double what I paid for it. But it also has a lot of the fixes to the original tool. A lot of the inherent issues were fixed, with the blade being accessible on the outside of the tool, the blade's edge, being on this side rather than facing towards the center of the tool. Every improvement that you could think of, or thing that was missing from the original tool, they have here. It does have a spring-loaded pliers, which is nice. That's one difference between this and the Wave. Not to mention this tool is just, it has a lot less tools on it than the Wave. But I decided that both of these were just too heavy, too big. I can take them camping, and they have their purpose for where I keep them, but not something I carry every day, right? So then that took me, I don't know how much time about before I got here, but then I decided to try this Leatherman Squirt. I discovered this tool, and I found that this guy, I could put it in my pocket and just forget about it, right? In fact, I forget it's there. If you're not careful, you'll forget to take it out of your pants pocket before you put them through the wash. But just an excellent tool. It has the same features. The blade's accessible from the outside. The edges are rounded. Pliers on the inside. Now these aren't huge pliers, but they work and they do cut. you know, and for something that's everyday carry, you know, I think it suffices for something you're going to have on you. But just a great all-around tool, a file that comes in handier than you would think, you know, to have it on you. And of course, you know, a pair of scissors. I think that's kind of a very important thing to have. Of course, both of these have that, albeit they're a bigger pair. We have a cap lifter and a flat screwdriver here, super handy. And of course, we have what they call a screwdriver for a Phillips screw. Now you can see it's really just a plus. You know, it doesn't have the plus of a Phillips screw, but just one of the blades of the plus you'd have on a Phillips screwdriver. But it will work for small screws. Anyway, very handy tool, and it fit the criteria, right? Something that it is a multi-tool. It can do different things. You know, not just have a blade on you. And it's something that melts into your pocket. There's no clip on the outside that you're scratching into things or it's tearing away at your pants. Very handy. I carry this guy every day. Well, then my son sort of got into knives, and he was interested in some things, and he bought like a $1 Walmart knife that wasn't very good at all. And I hadn't really looked into knives beyond what I've talked about here with this Leatherman. I did carry a Victorinox mini pocket knife that was about half the size of this, right? You can find those anywhere. I just don't happen to have an example with me right now, but I did carry that for years. It's a great option. Inexpensive multi-tool is the Victorinox mini pocket knife. Also put in your pocket, forget about it. Carried that for years, very handy. I just think this has a little more versatility because it has the pliers in it. That's why I carry this instead of the Victorinox. With that said, like I said, my son got into pocket knives, and I was really sort of wary about going down the rabbit hole of looking into everyday carry knives. I knew there was a ton of material and information out there on the internet. So to sort of spare myself from some of that research, I went to the wirecutter.com, a site that recommends different things. Now, I know it's been bought out by the New York Times, and I was a little leery of whether the recommendations would be as good as they were years ago, but they recommended this knife, the CRKT Drifter, and I bought it for my son. And it's one of these knives that's got a stud here. The idea is that you're going to open it with using this stud with your thumb. And this whole action here, it takes a little practice. If you haven't used one of these style knives before, where you get down how to open that knife with a flick of your thumb, it's one of those muscle memory things. It has a liner lock here that you can just push aside. It locks the blade in place. And you can, of course, you know, deploy the knife. You can close the knife with one hand. It's a very huge feature, and I can do that with the right or left hand. I will say, if you've never used one of these style knives, it takes some practice. But once you get it down, you'll wonder why you never carried one before. It's so handy. You can deploy this blade so fast compared to, say, this Leatherman. And just the sheer size of the blade, the fact it's locked, the grip you can get on here, you know, you can just do a lot more cutting with this knife, or heavier duty cutting, than you can with this guy. So I got this for my son as an upgrade. They were, you know, they used to sell for $17. The price has gone up, of course. It's probably double because they were recommended. The recommendation took off. But just a great little knife. Nice. Now the steel on here is stainless steel, right? And the scales, that's what they call the outer part of this handle, this black portion here. The scales have a great feel to them, right? The liners inside are metal, right, that contain the blade. The liners go all the way down. One great thing about this knife is that it's open all the way through, right? So any pocket lint or anything like that just passes right through the handle. And of course that makes the handle a little bit lighter weight. So I wasn't sure about this knife. I second guessed the recommendation. I thought, well, maybe I can do better. Ended up buying a couple other knives mentioned in the comments of that article, and other recommendations made in the article, including this guy. This was the upgraded option. So they recommended this knife is the best everyday carry knife, and then they said, well, this was the upgrade option. This is a great knife. It's made by Benchmade, American-made knife. Also has the stud for the thumb deployment of the blade. Of course, a lot higher grade steel. This is S30V steel. You can see it right here on the blade. Yeah, S30V. So it's going to get dull about 3 times slower than the stainless steel on this CRKT Drifter knife, right? This is known as the Drifter. So, you know, this just stainless steel grade, as I mentioned. This is a much higher grade steel, but, you know, you keep an edge on this. You know, it gets dull, you sharpen it, not a big deal to get it sharp real quick. But anyway, this is the mini Griptilian. It has an access lock. You pull in there's a button on each side, right? And you just sort of pull those in and you can just fold the knife in. You see it just comes in smooth. You don't have to fight it or anything. But like I said, this was the upgraded version. You can see that it's not open in the center like the Drifter is. Great knife. So I got this for me, right? And I got the less expensive knife for my son. It was kind of the thought at the time. But I liked the knife so much that he had gotten that I ended up buying one for myself to try out, right? And I got to tell you, I really liked it. And I would agree 100% with their recommendation. There's something about the weight of this knife, how it feels in the hand, how smooth the blade deploys, especially for something so inexpensive. You know, these cheaper knives are usually not, you know, as good, but it just works really well. You put it in your pocket and you forget about it. That's the key feature, right? That's what puts it in line with the criteria for that Leatherman. So I find myself carrying this every day, and part of that's because, you know, I had less of a risk or concern about losing it because, of course, this American-made Benchmade knife, which is great, is you know, much more expensive. So there's much less of a risk or concern about damaging this or losing it. A great knife to carry every day. So currently, what I find myself doing is I carry both these guys, one in one pocket, one in the other. And both, I forget they're in my pocket. I do find myself using this a lot obviously for anything that needs a knife blade. I could definitely highly recommend this, or the Benchmade for that matter. The Benchmade feels a little, I notice it more in my pocket a little bit more, but it's every bit just as good to carry. It might feel a little bigger in the pocket because it rounds up here on the edges, but you know, it's a fine knife. And of course, you know, certainly I would say a sharper edge, better cutter, but you know, for the money, I got to say this has been a really great knife. Now, they're not all created equal. You got to be careful when you get them. I did get some that I had to return one because the stud was broken when we got it, and it was screwed down, but you can see here that has these metal studs that connect the liners, right? One here, here, and here. This one was broken, screwed down tight, but broken, and so you just kind of do a QA check when you get these guys from you know, from Amazon or wherever you order them. But anyway, that's just a quick word on everyday carry knives. Some of the observations I made over the things that I've learned over the years that might help you. Of course, you have a host of options, but I am a big believer in knives that you put in your pocket and you forget about. They're not something that's cumbersome to carry, yet they have they're very quick to deploy and easy to use, right? Once you deploy the knife and use it, you put it away. You know, it's kind of like what they say about cameras. What's the best camera out there? What's the camera you have with you? Well, it's the same thing with knives. What's the best knife out there? What's the knife you have with you? It's the convenience. All these are, you know, considered convenience tools in the sense that you have them on you and you can use them without having to go grab your tool bag, or it's surely for the speed of use of the tool. So I should also mention, by the way, really quickly, that Gerber does make a tool to compete with the Leatherman, and I've tried this out, and my son uses this. It's a less expensive tool, has a cap lifter here on the end. There's a few minor differences, but I can tell you that the Gerber Dime, while, you know, probably a good tool for the money, is not nearly as good as this Leatherman. The Leatherman's just better in every way. You can really tell when you go to deploy the blade, just the smoothness of the blade deployment on the Leatherman, the smoothness of the pliers. The Gerber Dime just doesn't, it does not have, it's got more of a gritty feel to it when you try to open it and use it. My son uses it in his tackle box, works great for that. You know, it's a fine tool, but I definitely like the Leatherman better. But just thought I'd mention that quickly in case folks were thinking about that. But yeah, I recommend these two guys right here, Leatherman Squirt, CRKT Drifter. You know, if you want to upgrade, Benchmade Griptilian is a fine knife as well. And I think, you know, there's one other thing I want to point out is there's something about the length of this knife blade. I mean, you can get a bigger knife, right, or a smaller one, but there's just something about this size of knife where you can put it in your pocket. It's not cumbersome to carry. It's not going to be something that, you know, a lot of buildings have requirements for not carrying blades that are over a certain length. I think it's around 3 inches, 3.5 inches. I don't know, but I do know that this falls into the class where it's not something that's going to be a concern for security. It's not going to make people feel, I think, threatened or anything like that, right? So it's something that I think is just an excellent size in terms of not too small, not too large, easy to carry in the pocket, very handy. So I think that's the sweet spot on these two blades. Anyway, with that said, thanks. Please consider commenting, liking, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.